Chasen's restaurant, Beverly Hills. May 17th, 1982. Dean Martin pulls into the parking lot. Tuesday night. His usual night. He's been coming here every Tuesday for 15 years. Same time, same table, same routine. He drives toward his usual spot. The one closest to the entrance. It's not officially his spot. No sign, no reservation marker, but everyone knows. Staff knows, regular customers know. For 15 years, that spot has been Dean's. Tonight, it's occupied. Black Cadillac, vanity plate, KINGPIN 1. Dean stops his car, looks at the Cadillac, doesn't get angry, doesn't honk, just shifts into reverse and parks 3 rows back. The valet, a young kid named Tony, maybe 22, runs up to Dean's window as he gets out. "Mr. Martin, I'm so sorry. A gentleman parked in your spot. I told him that's where you always park, but he said he didn't care." Dean hands Tony his keys. "It's fine. Not my spot officially. But sir, you've parked there for years. Everyone knows. It's a parking spot, Tony. Not worth getting upset about." Tony looks confused. Most people fight over parking spots in Beverly Hills, especially at Chasen's. Status matters here. Where you park says who you are. But Dean just walks into the restaurant, calm, unbothered. Inside, Dave Chasen, the owner, Dean's friend, is waiting. "Dean, I saw what happened. That's Louis Dragner's car. He's in the back room with some associates. I can ask him to move." Dean raises his hand. "Don't, it's fine." "But Dean, that's been your spot for 15 years. I know, but it's not mine. Anyone can park there. Louis included." Dave doesn't understand. Louis Tom Dragner isn't just anyone. He's the boss of the Los Angeles crime family, one of the most powerful mob figures on the West Coast. When Louis Dragner parks somewhere, it's a statement. But Dean doesn't care about statements. He just wants to eat dinner. He sits at his usual table, orders his usual meal, reads his book, doesn't look toward the back room where Louis is dining with his crew. After an hour, Dean finishes, pays his check, leaves, parks in row 3 again next week. Same thing. KINGPIN 1 in Dean's old spot. Dean parks farther back. No complaint. The 3rd week, Tony the valet is agitated. "Mr. Martin, he's doing it on purpose. He knows this is your spot. He's making a point." Dean considers this. What point? That he can take what's yours, that he's more powerful. "Tony, he can't take what isn't mine, and power doesn't interest me." "But everyone's talking about it. They're saying you're letting him push you around." Dean smiles. Small, tired. Let them talk. By the 4th week, the staff is uncomfortable. Waiters whisper. Other regular customers notice. Dean Martin, the king of cool, is being disrespected, and he's doing nothing about it. Dave Chasen pulls Dean aside one night. "Dean, this has gone on long enough. Louis is making you look weak. Every Tuesday, he takes your spot. You park in the back like some nobody. People are noticing." "Let them notice." "Dean, you don't understand. Louis is doing this deliberately. He's a mob boss. This is how they operate. They test you. They see if you'll push back. If you don't, they keep pushing." Dean sets down his menu, looks at Dave. "Dave, I'm 65 years old. I don't have the energy to fight over parking spots. If Louis wants to park there, fine. I'll park somewhere else. It doesn't affect my meal. Doesn't affect my life. It affects your reputation. My reputation is that I sing songs and tell jokes, not that I win parking spot wars with mob bosses." Dave shakes his head. "Frank wouldn't stand for this." "Frank isn't me." The 5th week, something changes. Louis Dragner arrives at Chasen's early before Dean. He's sitting in the back room when Dean walks in. Louis sees him through the doorway, sees Dean being seated at his usual table. Louis calls over one of his associates. "That Dean Martin?" "Yeah, boss. He comes here every Tuesday." That's what Dave says. Louis thinks, where's he park? Usually up front, close to the entrance, but lately he's been parking in back. "Why?" The associate hesitates. "Because you've been taking his spot." Louis sits up. "What?" "His spot, the one close to the door. You've been parking there for weeks." Dave says that's where Dean always parks, has for years. Louis stares toward the dining room, at Dean, sitting there peacefully, reading, eating, not complaining. He hasn't said anything, not a word. Louis stands, walks toward the dining room. His crew tenses. When Louis walks toward someone, it's usually not friendly. But Louis just stands at the edge of the room, watching Dean. Dean doesn't notice. Or if he does, he doesn't acknowledge it. Louis parks back to his table, sits down, quiet. His associate asks, "Boss, you okay?" "Dean Martin's been parking in the back because of me." "Yeah, and he never complained, never sent someone to talk to me, never made a scene?" "Nothing. Dave says he just parks farther away, says it's no big deal." Louis is quiet for a long time. "Then tell Dave I want to talk to Dean Martin. Bring him to my table." The associate goes to Dave. Dave approaches Dean's table. "Dean, Louis Drangner would like to speak with you." Dean looks up from his book. "About what?" As he didn't say, but he asked if you'd join him in the back room. Dean considers this. Louis Drangner, LA mob boss, requesting a conversation. Most people would be nervous or excited. Status boost to be summoned by Louis Drangner. Dean just feels tired. "Tell him I'm eating. If he wants to talk, he can come here." Dave's eyes widen. "Dean, you can't." "I'm not refusing to talk to him. I'm just not going to his table. If he wants to chat, my table is available. If not, that's fine too." Dave walks back to Louis, delivers the message, expects Louis to explode. Instead, Louis laughs. "He said I should come to his table?" "Yes, sir. Dean Martin just told a mob boss to come to him."
In so many words, yes.
Louis stands. "I like this guy already." He walks to Dean's table, alone, no crew, no backup, just walks over and stands there. Dean looks up. "Louis Drangner. Dean Martin. Mind if I sit? It's a free country." Louis sits, signals the waiter. "2 glasses of your best scotch." Dean doesn't drink much anymore, but he doesn't refuse. The drinks arrive. Louis raises his glass. "To parking spots." Dean almost smiles, raises his glass. They drink. Louis sets down his glass. "I've been taking your parking spot. I noticed. For 5 weeks now. 6. But who's counting?" Louis leans back, studies Dean. "You never said anything. Nothing to say. Most people would complain. Make a scene. Send someone to talk to me. I'm not most people." "No, you're not." Louis takes another sip. "Why didn't you say something?" Dean thinks about this. "What would I say? That's my spot. It's not my spot. It's a parking spot. First come, first served. But you've been parking there for 15 years, and now I'm parking somewhere else." Life goes on. Louis laughs. Not his usual cold laugh, a real laugh. "You're serious?" "Why wouldn't I be? Because I'm Louis Drangner. People don't just let me take things. They fight, or they complain, or they respect me enough to give it up, but make sure I know they're giving it up." "I didn't give it up. You just parked there. I parked somewhere else. That's all." "You weren't angry?" "No, not even a little." "It's a parking spot, Louis. I've got bigger things to worry about." Louis stares at him, long, hard. "You know who I am?" "I know." "You know what I do?" "I have an idea. And you're sitting here telling me that you don't care that I took your parking spot, that it doesn't bother you at all?" Dean sets down his fork, looks at Louis directly. "Louis, you want to know the truth?" "Yeah, I do. I'm 65 years old. I've had a long career, good life, great family. I've done things I'm proud of and things I regret. But one thing I learned a long time ago, don't sweat the small stuff. And parking spots are small stuff. You need to feel important by parking close to the door. Fine, park there. I'll walk an extra 30 feet. It's not worth my energy to be upset about it." Louis is quiet, processing this. "Then you think I'm trying to feel important?" "Aren't you? I'm a boss. You run a criminal organization. I know, and that probably requires a lot of posturing, a lot of showing people who's in charge. Parking in the best spot, sitting at the best table, making sure everyone knows you're the most powerful guy in the room. I get it, but Louis, does it make you happy?" The question catches Louis off guard. "What? Does it make you happy? All this power, all this posturing, fighting for parking spots and the best table, and making sure everyone respects you. Does it actually make you happy? Louis doesn't answer. Can't answer. Dean continues, softer now. I'm just a singer. I tell jokes. I do shows. Simple life. And you know what? I'm happy. I eat dinner here every Tuesday. I read my book. I go home. No drama. No fights. No worrying about who's disrespecting me or who I need to put in their place. Just peace. That's what I want, Louis. Peace. And fighting over a parking spot isn't peaceful. So I let it go. Louis stares at his scotch, turning the glass, thinking, finally, nobody's ever asked me if I'm happy. Well, I'm asking. Long silence. Then, no, I'm not. Dean nods. I figured. How'd you know? Because happy people don't need to prove anything. They don't need the best parking spot or the best table or everyone's respect. They just live. You're fighting for all those things, which means you're not happy. You're just powerful. And those aren't the same thing. Louis looks up, meets Dean's eyes. You feel sorry for me? No. I understand you. Power is addictive. Once you have it, you need more. You can't stop. Every interaction becomes about maintaining it, showing it, proving it, and it's exhausting. I've seen it in this business. Guys who have all the power but none of the peace. They're miserable, but they can't stop because stopping feels like losing. So what do? You decide what matters. For me, it's peace. For you, it's power. Neither is wrong, but you should be honest about the cost. Louis finishes his scotch, sets down the glass, stands. Dean Martin, you're a strange man. I've been told. But you're also the most honest man I've met in years. I try. Louis extends his hand. Dean shakes it. I'm moving my car next Tuesday. Dean smiles. You don't have to. I know, but I want to. Because you're right. I was doing it to prove something, and that's a stupid reason to do anything. Louis walks back to his crew. They're watching, confused. Louis just had a conversation with Dean Martin. Friendly. No threats. No posturing. One of them asks, "Boss, what was that about?" Louis sits down. That was me learning something. What? That I've been fighting the wrong battles. The next Tuesday, Dean arrives at Chasen's. His old parking spot is empty. Kingpin 1 is nowhere to be seen. Tony the valet is excited. "Mr. Martin, your spot is free." Dean parks there, not because he fought for it, but because it's available. Inside, Dave Chasen is relieved. Louis moved. You must have said something to him. We talked. About what? Life. Louis doesn't come to Chasen's on Tuesdays anymore. He switches his regular night to Wednesdays, deliberately, so he and Dean won't overlap. So there's no parking conflict. But 3 weeks later, Dean arrives on a Wednesday. Schedule change. His Tuesday show got moved. Parks in back. Doesn't want to take Louis' Wednesday spot. Inside, Louis sees him, walks over. "Dean, what are you doing here on Wednesday?" "Schedule change. Tuesday show moved." Louis nods. "Then you parked in back?"
Yeah.
"Why?" "Wednesday's my night now. You could have taken the close spot." Dean smiles. "Same reason you moved to Wednesday. Respect." Louis stares at him, then laughs. Really laughs. "You parked in back so you wouldn't take my spot? Seemed fair." "Dean, you realize how crazy this is. We're both avoiding the same parking spot. You moved because of me. I moved because of you. Now we're both parking in the back to avoid each other. Maybe we should just share it." "What?" "The spot. You take Wednesdays, I take Tuesdays. If one of us shows up on the other's day, we park in back. Fair?" Louis considers this, then extends his hand. "Deal." They shake. For the next 4 years, that's how it works. Dean on Tuesdays, Louis on Wednesdays. If schedules change and they overlap, whoever is on the wrong night parks in back. No argument, no conflict, just respect. The staff at Chasen's notices. The parking spot that was once a source of tension becomes a symbol of something else. Two men, different worlds, different values, who found a way to respect each other without compromise. They're not friends, never eat together again after that first conversation. But when they pass in the restaurant, they nod. "Louis." "Dean." "That's it. That's all it needs to be. In 1985, Louis Dragna is indicted. Federal racketeering charges, his operation is collapsing, associates are turning, he's facing life in prison. Dean hears about it, doesn't reach out, doesn't call, doesn't send a message, because that would create a connection he doesn't want. But he thinks about Louis, about their conversation 3 years ago. Does it make you happy? No. Louis goes to trial. The prosecution paints him as a ruthless criminal, which he is. The evidence is overwhelming. Wiretaps, testimonies, financial records. Louis is convicted, sentenced to 20 years, federal prison. Dean reads about it in the newspaper, sits in his kitchen, quiet, thinking about a man he barely knew but somehow understood. Later that day, Dean calls Dave Chasen. Dave, Louis Dragna used to come to your restaurant every Wednesday for years, until the indictment. And did he have a favorite meal? Yeah, veal piccata. Always ordered it. Why? No reason. Just curious. Dean hangs up, sits at his desk, writes a letter. Short, simple. Louis, heard about the conviction. I'm sorry. Not sorry you're facing consequences for your actions. You made choices, and choices have costs. But sorry that a man who asked himself, am I happy? And answered no, never got the chance to find out what happiness felt like. Power isn't peace. You knew that when we talked. Maybe you'll find peace now. Not the way you wanted, but maybe the way you needed. Dean, he mails it to Louis's lawyer. Doesn't expect a response. Doesn't want one. Just wanted Louis to know someone remembered their conversation. 3 weeks later, a letter arrives at Dean's house. Dean, got your letter. Thank you. You were right. Power isn't peace. I spent 40 years chasing power, building it, protecting it, fighting for parking spots and respect, and making sure everyone knew I was important and I was miserable every day. But I couldn't stop, because stopping meant losing. And I never lose, except I did lose, lost everything, my operation, my freedom, my life. But here's the weird thing, I'm in prison, federal prison, and I'm more peaceful than I've been in years. No fights, no posturing, no parking spots to defend, just time to think, time to read, time to be something other than Louis Dragna, mob boss. And it's not happiness, not yet, but it's closer than I've ever been. You taught me that. In a 5-minute conversation about parking spots, you taught me that peace matters more than power. I didn't listen then, but I'm listening now. Thank you. Dean reads the letter, twice, then folds it carefully and puts it in his desk drawer. He never writes back. Doesn't need to. The letter said everything. Louis serves 15 years. Gets out in 2000 on parole. He's 70 years old. Different man. Quieter, humbled by prison and age, and the collapse of everything he built. He moves to a small apartment in Pasadena, away from Vegas, away from LA, away from the life. One day he drives to Beverly Hills, to Chasen's. The restaurant closed in 1995, but Louis doesn't know that. He just drives there out of habit, out of nostalgia. When he arrives, the building is empty. For sale sign in the window. The parking lot is empty except for weeds growing through cracks in the asphalt. Louis parks in the spot, the one that used to be Dean's, then his, then shared. He sits in his car, looking at the empty restaurant, thinking about Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights, and a conversation 15 years ago about happiness. Dean Martin died in 1995, 5 years before Louis got out of prison. Louis didn't know until he saw the empty restaurant, saw the building abandoned, realized the whole world had moved on. He gets out of his car, walks to the front door, peers through the dusty window, empty dining room, chairs stacked, tables gone, the life that used to fill this place gone. Louis stands there for a long time. Then he goes back to his car, opens the trunk, takes out something he's carried with him since prison, a small framed quote, something he wrote himself and had printed. Peace matters more than power. 1982. Louis walks back to the window, uses tape from his glove box, sticks the frame to the inside of the glass, so anyone who looks in will see it. A message from a conversation 15 years ago. A lesson learned too late, but learned nonetheless. He gets in his car, drives away, never comes back. The building is demolished in 2001. The quote is thrown away with the debris, but for 6 months it hangs there in the empty restaurant, a reminder of a parking spot, a conversation, and two men who taught each other something without meaning to. Dean taught Louis that peace matters more than power. Louis taught Dean that sometimes lessons land years later, and that's okay, because the timing of wisdom doesn't matter, only that it arrives. The parking spot at Chasen's doesn't exist anymore. The restaurant is gone. The lot is now a boutique shopping center, expensive stores, valet parking. But if you know the story, if you know where to look, you can still see the space where the spot used to be. Front row, close to the entrance, where a mob boss and a singer once fought a silent war over asphalt and respect, and where, eventually, they both learned that the best way to win a fight is to stop fighting. Dean Martin never cared about parking spots. He cared about peace. Louis Drangner cared about power, until he learned it was worthless. And for 4 years in the 1980s, a parking spot in Beverly Hills became a symbol of something bigger than either of them intended. Not friendship, not alliance, just respect. Two men, different worlds, same lesson. Peace matters more than power, and sometimes the smallest battles teach the biggest truths. The parking spot war that ended with a handshake and a question, "Are you happy?" Louis wasn't, but he learned. Eventually, that's the story of the parking spot. Not about who won, about what they learned. Dean learned that sometimes letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Louis learned that fighting for everything means enjoying nothing. And both of them learned that a parking spot, any parking spot, is just a place to leave your car. Nothing more, nothing less. The real space worth fighting for? The space inside yourself, where peace lives, or doesn't. Dean had it, Louis found it, 15 years too late, but he found it. And that 5-minute conversation in 1982 over scotch and parking spots and the question, "Are you happy?" changed a mob boss's life. Eventually, not immediately, not cleanly, but deeply. That's the power of asking the right question at the right time, even if the answer takes 15 years to sink in.